Welcome to OneClick. Our mission is to give Chick-fil-A restaurants the most beneficial team management software experience possible. We're here to serve you, and our passion is your success. So we're here to help Chick-fil-A's do kind of a setup management as well as break management or training management, kind of, all of the things all in one package. And I'll go over in this video kind of more in detail of how that all happens and um, stuff like that. And if you do have any more questions or want kind of more one-on-one training, you can set up an onboarding training, and you can also do a free trial that we'll go over, and you can play with all of these things as well. So let's just get started. So on this right side, you'll have the roster. This is connected directly through Hot Schedules through our vendor bridge integration. And you can take each of these team members and be able to place them onto the setup. So I can sit here and go and do this to, put people, in this case, I'm just doing it randomly. But in your store, you would go through and actually put, okay, Hayden's really good at dispatch, we'll put him there. Lauren's not so good at register, let's put her on bagger as the example. And so I could go through that, or once I've set up my training data, which I'll go over in a little bit, I can hit this auto schedule button and it will put the aces in their places. And I'll go over more detail of how that actually works in a second. But you can then, once you put everybody in here, I can then say, no, Carson, I don't want you on mobile bagging. We just want to put you on the second bagging here. Or Marley, I don't want you on drinks. I want you actually here. Or maybe I want you on both. And so I can sit here and take Marley down here and say, hey, you're going to focus on both. And then, in the huddle that we have that day, we can tell Marley that, hey, I want you to focus on this, but also watch out for the mobile drinks and kind of help Carson here be able to do that. We do have Crystal as a second person and, that kind of a thing. The other cool thing is that I can do this right now. This is on my 3 p.m. lineup. And so I can go in and say, okay, I did this for my 3 p.m. Now I'm going to go to 4, and I'm just going to copy my 3 o'clock lineup here. And so it's going to be the exact same lineup as I had before. I also gained 2 more people at 4:30, and so I can place them into their different positions. And then I can go through and say, okay, I want actually James and Ison to switch, or I want Carson to be here as the example, and I could go through that, or I can just hit reset and then start over and place new people in the different positions, all that kind of stuff. The other thing I'll kind of show on this end, takes me a second to get it set up, so bear with me, is what's called rotating buddies. And so from here, I can see that Ison here is on the chicken, and then Marley is on the waffle positions. And I also put them in this set here down here, that's why they have a 2 next to their name. So when I click on this arrow, watch what happens with the blue and red here, team members. They'll just switch places. And so the idea behind this is I could put them here and say, hey, from someone's outside on IPOS, and then someone's on the inside on window as the example here, for more specifically. And then every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or however long, they're going to switch places just like this. So that way, if it's too hot, it's too cold, you don't want them to be in the same position the whole time, whatever the case is, we have that. And it does a timer down here as well as how many times they've have switched. So in this case, they've switched 2 times, it just happened, and it automatically just switches them. Now we can do more people than that. So I'll put her as green just to kind of show there's a difference. And so I can, as I click on these arrows, it will rotate the 3. So the idea behind that is I can put someone on drinks and desserts and window and bagging, and I could rotate them every 15 minutes as well, just so that they're not in the same spot the whole shift, and just kind of mix it up and, be able to do all of that. Kind of moving on from here, you can see the little triangle there on the this IPOS position. Those are saying that those are required positions. Kind of going based off of the auto schedule, it's going to try and fill those ones first. Or if I'm a new person, I don't want to have any training data in for the auto schedule to work really well. As a new person, I could see that, okay, bagging, I need 2 baggers and all of these ones and window in order to have kind of my basic shifts. And so I could go in and say, okay, who's my best person? In this case, Allison is the manager. And so most likely she knows how to really do something. I'll probably put her on window just to make sure I can ask her questions. And I could go through that whole thing. I could also sort it based off of the big break manager, who's the highest trained person. So in this case, it's Hayden. But if I don't have any training data, which I'll go over a little later, what that is there, and then I could go based on alphabetical, who got here first, who is leaving home first. And then this auto schedule or auto sort here kind of does kind of a combination of all of them to kind of get them in that direction there. So talking more about the triangle, so I can click on this layout editor and I can go in and say, okay, I'm on this setup. I want to see where that minimum number is. So I can see here that this minimum number is 1, and maybe I don't like how I don't need 3 POSs as a minimum number. So I can click on that. It will go back down to 0. And so now if I hit save, it'll go on that other side and won't have that red triangle anymore. And maybe I don't want to necessarily have 3 different positions like this. I want it to be kind of like this one here. So I can go in and hit delete, and I also hit delete on this one, but I also want to increase the width on this one to be the same height, or maybe I want it to be a big box. And so now it can hold up to 12. We'll just leave it at there. But I also need to have a minimum of 2 IPOS people. And so I can click on that, and maybe I don't want that one there, so I would take that off. And so now it's just called IPOS, and then you can go from there. Or maybe we don't have a chicken person, and I want to call that, I don't know, random letters. And so if I save that, you can see that all there and kind of go through that. But maybe I'm just like, I just want to look at it and then I don't actually want to save it. So I can hit this abandon edits there and I can ask me to leave and I'll not save that there. But let's say we wanted to do a change just to kind of see what would happen. So I'm going to make this one, instead of mobile drinks, 2, I'm going to make it a 3. And then I'm going to hit make it smaller as well, just to kind of really show it off. So I'm going to hit save. And then once I leave the editor, you can see here how it didn't actually save that. And so I have to come down here and click on update all layouts. And then once I do that, it'll then update the way that it was. So the way that I do that again, I'll just kind of basically make the changes back again. Oh my goodness, I can type. And then make it bigger, kind of the way that it was. And so now it's back to the way it was. I'm going to hit save, and you can see here how it didn't actually update. So I need to hit update all, and it will update those as well. And then so from here in the layout editor, I can customize based off of how I want it to look. And then up here, you can see the different times that it is. So in this case, 11 a.m. is when this setup will show up, and same with at 3 and at 4. Where if I click here, I can go to that 2 p.m. setup, and you can see that there are a few things that changed. So if we go back to main, we can see that we have a whole second row of 4, 5, and 6 IPOS, and the 2 outside, and mobile cache, and all that kind of stuff. When I go to 2 p.m., those things are gone. And so I can have a different setup based off of time of day. So if we look at our morning setup is going to be different than our closing setup. And so I can go in and base it on that time of day, and all of the times that are checked up on here, that's what will show up on this top part up top. And so you can go in and say, hey, I want the default times to be at 4 and 3 and 5, or we can go all the way over here and see this 9 one is different, that kind of a thing. So let's talk about these tabs on the left, and then we'll kind of go from there. So this top one is this main page that we're on here. This next one down is the list, and I'll go more in detail on that in a second. From here, we can click on the fork and knife icon. Once we click on that, this takes us to our back of house setups. And so we can be able to see only people who are on the back of house. And so Sandra here is, let's say we'll put her on primary and fries, and then we can go from there. Then once I hit this cash register again, it'll then go back to the front of house setup as well. This next one down is the People tab. You can see all the training here, and I'll go over that in a second as well. But you can sort people based off of their name, so I can put it in alphabetical order. I can sort it based off of permission levels, which I'll go over what that is in a second. I can go based off of who has the most accountability points, which I'll also go over. I can go based off of who was last updated, and so in this case, Jared is new, and so he was there is only 2 hours ago was added. Or we can do it based off of who's the best at Windows. So in this case, Victoria is our best person because she's a shift leader and is at the top. But I can also see that Bonnie here may need some help, and maybe I can, as a training director, can say, hey, Bonnie and who did I say? Victoria probably need to get together to learn how to, transfer that knowledge there. This next one here is the chicken icon. This shows who's currently signed in. Based off of this pin, you can click on this cowboy hat. And so I'll put one in that's already been made, and that's how you do it. And so when I click on this chicken icon, you can see that I'm Hannah, and I'm just a bagger, so I don't have any permission levels, which I'll go over in a little bit. And so when I click on here, you can see I don't see any of that training data because I don't have permission to see it as well. And so I can come over here, and if I was logged in as, let's say, James, let's see if James has a thing. He does not. So I can just add a random number to James's. When I log in as James, I just copied it. Oh, I did save it first. So when I save that, you can see that James is highlighted here as well as down here because he's currently logged in. And so then you can easily find yourself. And that's the same way with the list that I'll go over right after this. And so then you can see exactly where you're at there. So speaking about lists, I can click on here and I can see the bathroom is a list that is currently there, and I can click here and drag James onto it, and he's now assigned to it. And you can see the little 1 there showing that he's been assigned. And so I can go through, or James can go through and click on all of these things, on all of them. Once he finishes it, it'll have that green check mark box there showing that he's completed the checklist that he's been assigned. And then as a leader, I can go in and click on review and double check that he's done all these things. And then I can click review, and it will then drop down to the bottom if there was more than one. And if I wanted to rate this and say, hey, he actually did a really good job, or hey, he did a 4, he forgot to stock something, and I could type that there. And so, like, hey, I noticed he didn't stock the soap, even though he checked it off. Like, make a note of that, and then I can hit submit review, and then it will have that review on there. The other way that you can see it as well is you can see it here in the. So this is the 8 a.m. version of that checklist. We can see that 10 a.m. one that James was assigned to, and I could assign Crystal to it to say, hey, when she comes back from break, go ahead and show her, James, how to do that. You can also go to this 11 a.m. one, and you can see here that there are 2 different, or more than 2 different sections. And so I can either assign them up at the top like this for Crystal, or I can drag them to there. And so if I do James up at the top here, it'll put it down here at this number 1. And you can see there are half of the sections done because of that blue bar. So as I put it here, it then jumps up. And I could do that same thing as I go across. And now everyone's been assigned, so when I do it again, it's going to place it here. And so you can go through, and once everybody has checked it off, and then everyone's done, it will then hit that review. But when I just do it for this side, I can type it, there we go. This one has been done, but not all of the sections have been done. That's why that review hasn't shown up. Now, let's say I really like this list, but we have our own list. So I can click on Manage Checklists, and I can come down here to use any of these templates. So maybe you like this close window one, and you want to not change it at all. You can click on Use Template. It'll then come up here to one of these published ones here. So we'll take the closed cage as the example. Now, if you like this one, then you can just hit save and publish. It'll then put it up at the top here, and then everyone can see it. and it will be for that at 10 p.m. it will show up, and then at 10:30 it will close, saying that it will be then late. If we want to change anything, we can change it based off of its daily, if it's weekly, or if it's a monthly occurrence. So maybe you have a list that only shows up on Mondays, and this is that list or whatever. So I can click on here and say, hey, every Monday that will show up. It starts today. Let's move on. And we can have it at multiple times. So in this case, it's going to show up at 10 and 10:30, as well as 2 and 4 on Mondays. Now we could also do it monthly, where it's saying, hey, on the first and third Monday of every month is going to do that. Or maybe we want it to be just the first Monday of every month, or however we want to do that. Same with how many times it shows up. Then also from there, we can go in and reorder this. So maybe we want to check the trash first and then wash our hands. Obviously, that's a weird way, but you could do it that way. Or maybe we don't want you to wash your hands at all and totally be cross-contaminating. We would then delete it. Or maybe I want to duplicate it and have two versions and assign two different people. Or maybe I just want to start over, and then I can add a section and then can add whatever I want it to that way. Once I like any of these changes that I made, I would then hit save. If I don't want people to still see it, or if I want people to see it, then I can hit save and publish. So that's all your lists, and all of these times up here show which ones are the times that lists are active. So in this case, you have two active ones there, or this one you'll still have two, or this one you just have the one. And you could do that for today, but I could also go again, just like our setups, we could go into the future and then assign those people to those lists. So we don't have to do it the day of. We can focus on the guests that way. All right. Now I've put it off for too long. I'll talk about training. So there's multiple ways that you can do a training or assign someone for training. I'm going to pick on Brian here because he shows up as no data there. So I can click on this, go into Brian there, and I can click on ratings. In this case, he's a back of house person, so I picked a really bad person to start with. So I'll pick on Crystal. So you can see here, she's been rated on runner. And so maybe I put her on window today, and so I can either, the way that I got to that menu is I right clicked on Crystal and I got to this menu. If I'm on an iPad, I can hold down and left click, or hold down, or on a computer, I just hold and left click. And this will come up with this preview. I can hit go to profile, and that would bring up this same page that we saw before. Or I can search in here and then find her that way. So I will do it on this screen. So I'm going to rate her on window. And so when I click on that little button there, it opens up the ratings that it comes with, in this case, window. So based on speed. So if I don't know, if I'm like, oh, maybe she's a 4 or whatever, you can look at it and goes, oh, it says a description here. Rarely falls behind, or no, I think she actually never falls behind. Accuracy is unreliable versus like maybe 5 orders out of the window per shift. This is 4, 3, and then 2 is a 5-star. So as this example, let's say she's to knock her down a little bit. She's like a 3, and maybe we'll do a 3.3. I can put in here saying makes mistakes when it is busy. Then I can submit the rating, and you can see up here how it's now blue, showing that she's above average on that on window, and it's going to take and say, hey, if you know window, most likely you also know IPOS. We're going to turn it gray because until you tell us otherwise, that's what we're going to assume that it is. So if we went into the ratings, you can see that kind of a thing. Now, if I change this window into a 4-star, you can see here that all of this changed into, now it has a star. Now if I did it again and did it as she's a 5-star, it'll then change it to a crown. And you can see that there. And so to also change these two until you tell us otherwise, that's what we're going to assume. Now let's say, as the example here, I'm just doing this as a test. But maybe I was like, oh, wasn't supposed to do it on Crystal. I was supposed to do it on James. And so I can go in as a director level permission, and I can go through and delete these. Now, the other way that you can rate someone is going into this rating prompts here, and it will say, hey, Crystal's never been on register before, and so that's why it's green. Obviously, she's a new person, so that's why it's really showing green. If I put a few more people on, so we'll just push that auto schedule really fast, you can see here how I have Caleb is on a new position on IPOS, or one of those gray icons that we saw before. Ashlyn is on window. We don't know for sure if that's where how good she is, but on things ahead of that, like bagging, she actually is really good at, and so we're not quite sure, but we would like a new rating if possible. Or Naomi here got rated really low on passer, wherever that is right there. So you can see here that the whatever position is trading on, and we can show that in the layout editor, got really low. So I think it's bagging, got really rated low. That's why it's red. And so why would we put her there unless she's improved? And so that's why it's saying it's a low rating. It's purple. We should improve her. So if I like all of these, like I don't have the time to go through and rate Crystal and do like all of this stuff, I can do the speed rating at the top. And so you can see here it says speed rating to 3 stars. And so when I click on it, it'll just quickly rate everyone just super fast, so I can have that data in there. And this is really good for the new stores, so that you don't have to worry about putting in a whole bunch of the same thing over and over again. I can just put in the data so it has kind of a default setup already. And then all I have to do is just do that over the course of however long. And then I can go into crystals and see, like, okay, she's really good at this. Let's upgrade her and actually put some comments in there. Okay, so from here, let's talk about the accountability. So you can see here that Crystal got an infraction for 5 points. And so I can add, let's say she did something else that's bad. And so maybe she didn't show up in uniform correctly. And I could put in here, forgot her belt. So I can click on the submit infraction. You can see there that now she has 7 points. It doesn't change anything on this side because she hasn't hit that 8 point threshold. And so I can go into her profile and do the same thing, kind of like the ratings. But instead of going to ratings, I'm going to infractions. So I can see as a director level that she had an attitude, didn't really put any comments there, but had that 5 points worth. And then because she forgot her belt, that's a uniform violation. She now has 2 points there. It expires on 30 days by default, and we can change that as well. And then if, for example, like we did with the infractions, if this wasn't the right person, if we need to add more, or, she just forgot it in her car for her belt, I can click on this edit and then say, put the little comment there, forgot, whatever I can type in her car. And I can update that, but instead of the expiration being 90 days, we're going to have it be in no effect. And so when I change that, it'll update that to be 0 points, assuming I did that correctly. I have to refresh because it's a new, it did an update. The joys of doing a demo live. I forgot to change it to not the default effect no immediately, and then it will update. And so now she doesn't have that points, or shouldn't have those points. It'll update in a second, to basically saying, hey, today is when it actually expires, versus 3 months from now when she had her attitude problem. And so then that would take that off after today. So talking about permission levels, we'll kind of go over it through here. So these are the default permission levels. Team member is able to view all of the the setups and pretty much everything that is there, but they can't do anything with it. They can only see it. A trainer is able to do anything a team member can do. A trainer, though, can do the ratings and see all the ratings and see all that history and be able to rate people, and that's all they can do. A team leader is able to do anything a trainer and team member can do, but they can also place people into their positions as well as send breaks. A shift leader is able to do anything above them, as well as be able to change any of this, as well as do infractions and kind of do a little bit of that kind of stuff. Manager is able to do everything above them. They can also set pins as well as do the layout editor and pretty much do everything. Except for what a director can do, and that's the difference between them. A director can do everything a manager can do and above, but a director is able to like delete the infractions or edit the ratings and do kind of all of the like director level items from there. All right, let's go over kind of the different symbols. I didn't talk about breaks. Let's do that first. So from here, you can see it's red or the teacup, showing that they need a break. Once you click on them, they have a little running man, and it also shows that they are currently on break. And it shows that they have 18 minutes left on that break. Once they go through that, so like Crystal here, she has -4 minutes, so she should have been back 4 minutes ago, or now 5. Once you click on that, it'll then change to that moon icon or the lemon icon, showing that they've had their break already. And so you can see here that there's a bunch of people that need their breaks and a few that have gotten them. You can see here their little check mark icon. And so if we open up their thing, you can see here that he has a split shift. He works 2 to 5 and then also from 5 to 9. So maybe he picked up someone's shift or whatever the case may be. The green icon is showing that they are a new person, so we call them working recruits. So from there, you can see that Crystal is new, and so we should probably pair her with a trainer, and so maybe it's something like this, kind of a thing. The little M represents that they are a minor, but the M represents that they're a minor. The little m represents that they're either 14 or 15. The capital M represents that they are 16 or 17. And then if they don't have any of that, they are an adult and older than 18. You can see here in the moon icon, it shows that they are a closing shift. So in this case, Sam is closing. And so on the list feature, I'd probably put him on closing duties rather than on like someone that would have to go home at a certain point. And so you can see, let's see if I can find a training one. Most likely not. But there is also a training one. So if you have like a training they're on a training shift or they're a trainer, they would have a different icon showing that like this person's probably going to be training this person. And you can type that all in the notes here. You can type in and that will save throughout the whole day and kind of go from there. And again, you can go through and do Tuesday and do their whole setups and so on. Yeah, you can see the little training shift here. So they are training, like Victoria is a trainer. But doesn't have any trainees on this shift. So there must be training on something. Where if I take Connor and put him the permission levels, not as a trainer, when I come back, you can see how he has the weight icon showing that he is being trained by Victoria or Cameron here. And so I can go back and put him back as the trainer, not to mess anything up. You can see up at the top the different icons there. So you have your team members. So in this case, there's 23 total team members on this shift, where you have 2 assigned. So obviously not going to be a very good shift, but we can go through and drag them in. You have 8 leaders. You have 17 minors. You have 3 people training. If we have, and then in this case, we have 1 closer. But we can go in and go through and see like, hey, we have 2 new recruits or we have 2 closers. If I fill out the auto scheduler It'll have a shift strength on there as well. So in this case, out of 5, this is a 4 shift strength. That means it's probably going to be a very good shift. Where if I start going through and taking some people off, it may go up or down depending on who I take off. And so if I reset it and actually just put people on, you can see here how it's a 4, where she's really good at register, so that's why it's now a 5. Where if I put her on runner, if I can find a runner position, not a very good example. Nope. Let's find someone else who doesn't have. Reagan is on bagging. Nope, not there. Haley. If Haley is on dining room, you can see here how now it's at 2.5, where if I take Reagan off, it's now a 1, because she's not very good at dining room, and so that might be a very difficult shift. And so you may have to add some more people here to see how it averages them out. And it does that kind of automatically. From there, let's see. I think that is everything. So if you do have any other questions, or you want us to help you with the layout editor, or set up the accountability by clicking on this gear, and you can change any of these to be what you want it to be, or we can help you with anything. We're here to help you customize your setups. Don't hesitate to click on the support link that's down below, or you can always email us at support@oneclickapp.com. We're looking forward to hearing from you soon.